Hey, it's Jeff Byrd. What's happening? All right, so I'm watching a movie tonight, I'm watching Wall Street, and I'm thinking, God, I miss movies like this, you know? It doesn't really matter so much what it's about. Yeah, it's stockbroking. It's not my thing. I could care less about financial markets, but they make it so interesting and fun, and the characters are dynamic, and you immediately know where the film is going. It doesn't take this huge setup. Um, and I'm like, I wish there was more movies like Hollywood sucks lately. We know this. This is not my opinion. This is an objective fact. You're probably searching through, you know, Netflix right now, and one of the things that I hated about Netflix when I had it is that I would spend more time searching for movies than I would do watching them. Sometimes it's like just as much of a hassle trying to figure out what you want to watch as actually watching. So I'm going to give you a list of movies that I think are maybe underrated. I tend to like slow burn movies. I tend to like dark themed movies. I tend to like psychological thrillers. I tend to like sort of neo film noir, moody. Oh, by the way, I also like The Firm. That reminds me of Wall Street. It's like that was a fun one too. Devil's Advocate, things like that. All right, but let's get to my official list. I got 25 of them here. These are some of my favorite movies. I'll tell you why. But if you have, pick out any of these movies on this list, and you'll be happy and have a few hours of good, pure escapism, and you won't have to worry about the quality because it's there. I'm not saying you'll like every single one of my picks, but they are pretty damn good. So here we go. Now, these are not in any particular order, but here's 25 of my favorite movies, and they tend to fit in those categories I was throwing around earlier. So let's start with Cabin in the Woods. It's an interesting spin on the horror genre, but it's also tongue-in-cheek, it's also funny, but on some weird level, it could actually be true. There could be underground bases with alien life forms or, chimeras or, interesting experiments with genetics and DNA and stuff. Who the fuck knows? So that is interesting. The sort of dry humor between the people working downstairs. The whole dynamic was brilliant. The setup, the zombies, the sets, the fact that it was sort of a false facade, but at the same time, you were interested in the esoteric and the exoteric version of the story. So check out Cabin in the Woods if you haven't already, and if you've already seen it and you like it, watch it again. Number 2, Sicario. Great acting. You could see this being the way that the CIA actually is. I feel like the way that the, departments interacted and the way that it's just so much worse and cold and, mean-spirited and also pragmatic. And just brutal. These departments are so cold, and the people that are in them are sociopaths or psychopaths learning how to channel that. I don't know. It's just really a cool movie. The action was great. The set was amazing. So check out Sicario. Number 3, The Game. Another Michael Douglas movie who I think is a great actor and is always likable, interesting. Well, maybe not likable as the character, but likable as the actor. I think he does a great job and plays interesting characters, picks good movies. But yeah, The Game is one of the coolest movies because you're not sure what reality is. There's conspiracy, there's secret society vibes. It's a slow burn for sure, and you're not sure about what characters are on your side and which ones aren't. There's so many levels to the psychological thriller, and I really like this genre, and I really like this movie. So check out The Game. If you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. And if you have seen it, like, it's one of those movies that is worth a second and third viewing just to figure out what the fuck's going on, first of all, but also it's just really well done. Great movie. Number 4, Angel Heart. Man, this is an underrated movie in my opinion, and this is when Mickey Rourke was really at the top of his game, and before he boxed and sort of messed up his face, because he was a good-looking dude and a great actor. Really kind of kept things sort of stoic and masculine, but had that cheeky smile where he knew something that you didn't. Just a cool actor, and this is, I think, one of his greatest movies. So check out Angel Heart. It's a slow burn again. It's also psychological thriller for sure, but it's a detective story as well. So it's got that film noir vibe to it. And next up, we have The Ninth Gate. Just an awesome movie, dark, brooding, weird, occult, supernatural maybe. But it was very Eyes Wide Shut-like. You know, it was very Kubrick-esque, and secret societies and, and Satanism, conspiracies, religion. It's just interesting. So, and Johnny Depp does a good job of kind of holding down the fort, being a rock, and all these weird, eccentric characters that are, super rich and sort of old bloodline nobility. It's a good movie. Also, might as well bring it up now. Number 6, Eyes Wide Shut. One of Stanley Kubrick's best films. It was his last film. Very odd how he died right before the movie came out. And frankly, quite suspicious, in my opinion. I think he was probably taken out, but that's just my view. But I think that the themes of this movie are so reflective of things that happened much later, like Weinstein, Epstein, Diddy parties, freak-offs, all that stuff, private islands and private jets, and again, with themes of the occult, secret societies, and Satanism, and conspiracies, slow burn, film noir. It has it all. And I think it is sort of a whistleblower movie in a way, through just the storyline and the themes. It might have been Kubrick saying, check this out. This is actually going on. Next up, you guessed it, The Shining. So this is my favorite horror movie of all time. I still, to this day, even after watching it probably 25 or 30 times, you get something new every time you watch it. And the acting was over the top, but still amazing. I thought Nicholson was great. It was one of his best roles ever. Iconic, absolutely. The snow-bound claustrophobia and, cabin fever and sort of insanity that develops, from him not being able to write and, and going into his mind and just going off the deep end. I mean, it's just amazing. And I actually think that Stephen King is funny. He'll say that his favorite movies of his adaptions, his books, are some of the worst ones, I think, and his least favorite ones, like The Shining, he was pissed off at Kubrick for changing it too much or whatever, which is one of his best ones, though. He has an odd taste. He's a great writer, but I don't think he judges movies very well, personally. But The Shining was just so good from beginning to end. Every character, even the tiny, small characters, the bit parts are fantastic in this movie. And we might as well say this next, Dr. Sleep, which I think was severely underrated in an era where really bad movies were being made. I thought Dr. Sleep was actually really good. The cinematography was incredible when they were soul traveling and sort of astral projecting and doing those scenes. I thought the cinematography was so creepy and really well done. And it was like vampire, but not really exactly. I thought it was a really good sequel to The Shining, which is really hard to do, and I thought it was going to suck. I thought it was going to be terrible. I actually really liked it. I liked the character of Abra. I thought she was vulnerable but yet powerful and likable, and the friendship and camaraderie between the two guys that, the main characters there that helped each other out through tough times and his drinking problem and everything. That whole sort of buddy cop vibe that he and his friend had going into the field and going downrange and taking on these undead, ghouls and shit. I thought that was really cool. So give Dr. Sleep a watch and keep an open minded, because I actually thought it was really well done. And the main girl that was the Hat, Rebecca Ferguson, is that her name? She was really good in that role. And yeah, the movie was great. So really, really well done. Check that out. Next up, a really cool movie called The Gift. And one of those movies that's another slow burn. You can't quite figure out exactly what's going on. There's a lot of turns that were unexpected, and a lot of reveals and things that you didn't see coming exactly. And it was super well done. It wasn't just done for the sake of like M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, where it's like, let's just have a twist ending because that's my thing and that's what I do. It was like, there was all kinds of twists and turns, and it gave you a different perspective each time that happened. And that was really hard to do, I think. That's hard to write. That's hard to film. and I thought the actors were fantastic all the way through. Just super likable cast, and even though they were doing dark, weird, twisted shit, and it's kind of a movie about bullying, but also a movie about karma and a cautionary tale. Check out The Gift. You're going to like that one. Red Rock West. This was Nicolas Cage in his prime, I think at his best. Film noir, dark, brooding detective movie. The sort of hitman vibe and the characters not knowing each other until they figured it out. It was just all very cool. Check out Red Rock West. Next up, we have Black Phone. Again, in an era of kind of shitty movies, this one was a standout. Good horror movie, and was that real? Was that in his head? Was that supernatural? The sister who was kind of psychic, the dad who was like a good guy but like a really, really bad guy at the same time. That was interesting and well played. The 70s gritty vibe. It was a really cool horror movie that wasn't same, and Ethan Hawke did a great job as the villain. Those masks were really cool. The shots were great. The cinematography was awesome. Couple of jump scares, but in a good way. Usually that annoys me, but it was really well done. Just a good horror movie all around. Underrated, I think. So check that one out. Next up, we have River's Edge, which was, Keanu Reeves when he was still like, whoa, most excellent. And probably one of the most underrated actors in general is Crispin Glover. He's one of my favorite actors. I don't know, everything he's in is just fascinating because I've heard stories that he's totally insane and difficult to work with and like over the top, but he turns in some really amazing performances that are just, I don't know, interesting. It's just, I think the guy is incredibly talented, but also off his rocker. But anyway, if you haven't seen, a lot of people haven't seen this one. It's kind of went under the radar a little bit, but River's Edge is one of Keanu's best movies. It's kind of a 90s vibe, rebellious kids, and, cautionary tale, another one of those. But yeah, check out River's Edge for sure. It's very cool. Crispin Glover his character has some great lines too. It's like, I don't care. Just do it. There's some moments in the car that are some of the fucking funniest things. And it was like funny, not trying to be funny. It was funny, serious, but at the same time, not a parody. I don't know how to explain it. He's just fascinating as an actor. So check it out. And next we have Spirited Away, which is, in my opinion, the best animated movie of all time. I know there's others that are incredible, etc. But for me, this one was my favorite. It was weird, spooky, kind of like scary, and at the same time, like heartfelt and amazing and vibrant. And to think that, they drew this like by hand, frame by frame. It's just the best animation I've ever seen. Incredible story, real Japanese storytelling, and just, all the way around, just an absolute masterpiece, which is why it won the Academy Award, for Best Film that year or Best Animated Film. But check it out if you haven't seen it. And if you have, go back and watch it again because it's like so many interesting emotions come up during that movie. And it's all at the same time, It's really rare that movies can do so much in terms of, digging up so many different themes and also emotions all at the same time without going just like one direction or the other. This one goes in so many different directions, but does it beautifully. Next, we have LA Confidential, which is just great storytelling, a neo-noir film. I won't get into details about the characters. You've probably seen it, but if you haven't, you gotta see this one. And the acting is just stellar all the way through. Just great storytelling, man. Next up, we have Glengarry Glen Ross, which is like the ultimate salesman movie. If you're a salesman, you definitely have to see this movie. And if you're not a salesman, you still got to see the movie because it's just damn good. But it's the weaselly, mean-spirited nature of like, hitting goals and who's better than who and ego and, office politics, and just like, God, everybody was so good in this fucking movie. Just right on the mark. I couldn't imagine it being with other actors. The casting was that good, and they all came through at the same time, played off each other. I've never seen a movie that is that likable that's that depressing. You know what I mean? It just brings up the drudges of humanity, the Morlocks rising up from the sewers, it's just like dark and sticky and black, but it's like at the same time so likable as far as characterizations and scenes and dialogue, and it was shot really well. I just fucking love this movie. Glengarry Glen Ross, check it out. Next we have Mulholland Drive, which is insane. Kind of vintage and classic storytelling, but at the same time with a lot of different twists. I still, to this day, don't really know what the movie was about exactly. I think I've watched it maybe 10 times, and every time I'm like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I love this movie. So you got to see that if you haven't. And then Parasite. Okay, I mean, obviously, won Best Movie. Koreans are making great movies when Hollywood isn't, so Hollywood's loss is Korea's gain, I guess, but the viewers win either way. So check out Parasite. It's just masterfully done, fascinating. Just, who is the parasite indeed? And also, if the same filmmaker did a film called Burning that is just absolutely incredible as well. Same kind of just dark, sticky vibe. So check out those two movies, but especially Parasite, because that is just a masterpiece. Although I will say both of them are two of my favorites. So next up, we have Green Room, which I thought was underrated as fuck. What I liked about it is it's so realistic. It's a horror movie in a way. It's a psychological thriller in a way. But it seems like the characters make decisions that you would make if you were in their situation. And at the same time, even when chaos erupts, you're like, that makes sense. The realism and the, it's really a dark movie. It's really fucked up and violent and kind of, it is a little depressing. But at the same time, it's just like every single scene, you're just on the edge of your seat going, what the fuck is going to happen here? You're invested in the characters. You want them to succeed. You want them to get out. But yeah, and the kind of punk rock undertones of this movie, I think were really well done and super realistic. Ooh, I like this movie. Ex Machina, which I thought was just super, super well done. A lot of movies made about AI and about robots, but none of them were this compelling, in my opinion, as this movie was. It had a realism to it. You're trying to figure out exactly who the good guy and the bad guy is, and you have a really hard time telling. It sort of delved into, morality and how that becomes blurred when you get super advanced technology, and how easy it is to sort of go down the wrong road when it comes to that. I just think that, but it wasn't like preachy and over the top like I thought iRobot was, or some of these that are just like, ugh. It's one of my favorites of all time, actually. So check out Ex Machina. I thought it was extremely well done. And next we have The Matrix, which is, look, I didn't like any of the Matrix movies after the first one. I'm talking about the first one here and the first one only, because I didn't like the trilogy, and I didn't like the one that followed after, and I didn't like anything in between. How it starts that first scene, and it's like, no, your men are already dead. And it just jumps right in. The visuals tell the story. It holds up to this day. It might even be more compelling in 2025 than it was when it came out, in terms of, how crazy the world has gotten. We live in this crazy, nightmare dystopia. And I think this movie kind of predicted that. Just an absolute classic, and it's timeless. And no matter when you watch it, it's just as relevant as when it came out in '99. So yeah, The Matrix. Come on, I mean, duh, gotta watch that. It's just good every time you see it. Next up, we have a Ryan Gosling film. I'm not a huge fan of his, but he has done some good movies, and I think he is a good actor. I think he's done two that I really like, Crazy Stupid Love and Drive. Now, the one on my list right here is Drive, but definitely check out Crazy Stupid Love, because I think that was his best movie as far as like, him as an actor. He was dark and brooding and cool and like, the cool Chad guy, but at the same time, like really likable. And that's hard to do. It's hard to be the cool guy and to be likable at the same time. He pulled it off in that movie, and it's a really, really funny, well done movie. But that's not the one on my list. The one on my list is Drive, and that is a motherfucker of a movie. It's like a kind of a mafia movie, sort of a, it's not a detective movie, but it's sort of a, it kind of feels like a gritty cop movie. I just liked it all the way around. I thought he was great in it, and I liked the cinematography and the visceral sort of filming, the way that they brought up emotions based on very little dialogue a lot of times. It was super, super well done. So check out Drive. And next we have another Ethan Hawke movie that made the list, and this is Gattaca. Just one of the best science fiction movies of all time, in my opinion. Definitely my top 10 in that category. And just the whole thing about DNA, the whole thing about, modification. It reminded me a little bit of the Steven Spielberg movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Also really good. That probably should make my list, but let's just say it's a runner-up because it's damn good. It's an original take on the genre when so many of them, again, can be samey. And this one's not. This one is like really well done. The next one is a Jeremy Renner movie called Wind River, which is really sad and I'm just going to tell you ahead of time, this one is depressing. It's hard to watch, but it's so fucking good. Like everybody in the movie is good. The standoff is like really realistic and really violent and sudden. And it's exactly how a gun battle would probably go down in the wild, Definitely check out a very often overlooked and often underrated movie, Wind River. Next up, Russell Crowe's done some great movies. I mean, Gladiator, A Beautiful Mind. I think this is my favorite of his, and this is The Insider. He was so good in this movie. I think it's his best movie. I think the acting was impeccable. It seemed like a completely different person. It didn't seem like Russell Crowe at all. And I feel like it was just masterful. So conspiracy, companies, doing horrible things, which is fairly realistic if you look at history. But just, I don't want to give the plot away if you haven't seen it, but you definitely have to see The Insider, my favorite Russell Crowe vehicle, and also just a fantastic story all the way through. And definitely a cautionary tale for corporate America. And finally, my last recommendation for the day is Donnie Brasco. I thought Johnny Depp was fantastic here, and I thought Al Pacino did a great job here. He's done so many good movies, but man, this movie is it underrated? I think it was pretty highly rated. I don't know. It's like a really interesting take on the mafia, undercover cop kind of side of things. And also just, it's like you liked the characters even though they were bad. That's kind of hard to do in a movie. It was just really super well done all the way through. One of my favorite kind of mafia movies, actually. And I felt like it was a smaller story, not trying to be like, here's throughout the ages, the gangsters, the Godfather and all that. I mean, those are amazing movies, but this was a smaller story, but just it could be a little bit more colorful and more fun. And, it was just a good ride all the way through. So Donnie Brasco, if you've seen it, check it out again. It really holds up. And that's my 25 or maybe 27 I threw in there, but those are my favorite movies. There's others, of course, but those are some of my faves. And I hope that this gives you hours and hours of good entertainment and good, just escapism for the sake of escapism instead of hitting you over the head with agenda and stuff. Just a bunch of great movies, and you'll have hours of fun. I actually envy the people that have not seen these movies because I would like to see them for the first time. But I'm just going to go watch them again. So anyway, this is Geoff Byrd. I'll be back with other videos, but I just wanted to help out some brothers and sisters here with getting some good quality time of watching some great movies and not having to scroll through Netflix and trying to figure out what you want to watch and stuff. So jot these down, check them out. Tell me what you think in the comment sections. Also, please leave your favorite movies if I left some out, maybe some that you want to put on the list. But also tell me if you like my list and if you like some of the movies on there and what you thought about those. All right, we're done. Peace out.